Hey there, welcome to episode 80 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this late at night, the latest ever, for an episode that would be published on the same day. Normally, this late at night, it would be published tomorrow, but I'm going to try to publish this on the day, as usual, on this Friday, September 6th. It is presently just about to roll over to 10 p.m. Why on earth am I recording this so late? That is a great question. Next question. Now, it was an unplanned day of different activities and whatnot. And so here we are, 10 p.m. on this Friday, September 6th. I thought for a moment about heading down to First Friday. I think I'm going to try to go next month. It's still a little warm. It is a little warm, although the photography is very nice. There are some drone photos. Now that drones are mainstream, it's pretty easy. I wish there were photos, drone photos. So probably, I'm going to guess from, I can't remember what the service ceiling is. It's something like, is it 300 or 500 feet? But it looks like it's something like 200 feet up. Some really nice photos. I would really love to have seen those photos, but from First Friday about 10 years ago. First Friday was easily twice as large, maybe larger, in area. If you're familiar with the area, north and south sides of the Charleston Street, Charleston Boulevard Avenue, Charleston Avenue. It used to be kind of sprawling and kind of almost like a pop-up town, a pop-up open-air mall. It was fun. It would be interesting to see those photos. Anyway, it looks very nice. The layout always changes, but and it's on Friday this month, so that's always nice. Why talk about First Friday? Well, today is First Friday, so here in Vegas, it is known probably more as an event, but it is in general, the rest of the world, a day on a calendar. It's one to enjoy wherever you are. You do not need to travel to a place called First Friday. You can simply sit still, and a time called First Friday will come to you. But it is interesting that Vegas very, very quickly, rather easily, can configure itself around a recurring day on a calendar every month. Various other events like a Super Bowl or CES or EDC, the Electric Daisy Carnival. Electric Daisy Carnival, yeah. And the list goes on. There are a host of events that last several days here, but none in recent memory so exciting as the dramatic construction of racetracks and the demolition or temporary removal or re-architecting or temporary construction or traffic diversion, foot traffic diversions, the total chaos. And this is including Life is Beautiful, which would encircle a chunk of downtown and lead to non-trivial chaos. Like, I live in the event. Like, okay, you get a special pass, you can go home. So they literally enclosed an area with residences and small businesses, restaurants, bars, etc. And said, okay, you're going to need a wristband, or I can't remember what they were. If they differentiated the residents and hey, I work in that place right there inside the event. Like, okay, well, make sure you get your credentials. So even that, I think, pales in comparison to the chaos that ensued for the 2023 Formula One race, pre, mid, and post race construction, deconfiguration, I suppose. The paddock, the unfortunately coincident name with a very bad person from an October several years ago. The paddock and the some other construction that will remain post-race, almost like a World's Fair or an Olympic pavilion. The detritus of the event persists. So the 2023 race had some drama. It had some last minute plans. It had all kinds of weird stuff. And it was interesting to watch how it was covered in the news and the ongoing confusion and lack of communication, perhaps. Essentially driven by the county, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. There is a lot of focus on the future of Formula One, especially coupled. Not covered. I'm not reading. This is all completely improv. So when coupled with things like somebody said they should just have the Super Bowl here every year. That's not quite how that works, but events like the Super Bowl, whatever happens with the athletics baseball team, if they do finally move, if there is a stadium built here, who knows? And the list goes on. There's always something being built or torn down or moved or renamed or purchased or going bankrupt. You can never be too sure. So the convention center, major renovations going on. The last time I was on the classic side of the sort of east side, I guess, the east side of Paradise, where the main convention center, the one that we all probably have grown up with, Convention Center West, is very pretty. It's very big. It's very nice. So last time I was at an event, I was actually in that part of the convention center. So big, giant remodeling going on there. The Loop, underground cars, could do underground trains, electric trains, been around for decades, century, more. It's been done. Got to have individual human-driven cars. There's a new airport coming. There's a horrible idea for a spaceport driven by, I guess, owned by, being pushed by its CEO, who refused to participate in any way in the NASA Space Apps Challenge here. So we'll see how that goes. So the bottom line is there's always a lot of chaos going on in the greater Vegas area, Southern Nevada. And it will be interesting to see how this one in particular, since Formula One, it's almost like soccer or football in the rest of the universe, is generally popular and it gets a lot of attention around the world. Super Bowl, fairly American, not only American, but definitely American, United States, part of America. But Formula One, it's a very wide net that has been cast. It's very exciting. But at what cost? Where is the focus? What's the long term? These are sorts of lingering questions. And I brought up some of this from 2023 because it seemed like there was a lot of hand wringing, head shaking, head scratching, butt scratching. Anyway, so I took to spelling it F1un Economy. See what I did there? So the fun F100. Wow, can't speak tonight. F1un Fun 2024 begins. And that is the title of today's episode. Hopefully, wherever you found this episode, you are able to find the show notes in the episode description. There's a summary that I will read to you, and there is a small collection of links, more than recently, although not as many as I've provided in other. I think they were mostly for the Formula One stuff. There's always a lot of discussion, a lot of press coverage, not as much local coverage leading up to it. We'll see how that goes this year. The Cafe Genius Impresario's audio program is focused on the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the greater Vegas area, although some of what goes on here could be applied elsewhere. What happens in Vegas in this regard need not and maybe should not stay in Vegas. So on that note, let's get into the show notes here. Of course, I am doing another solo episode today. Perhaps one day we will return. We will return to sitting with guests. Toying with a video component. I do 4 different audio programs each week. So some would be interesting with video and with interview, discussion, interaction. Some might even be cool live stream with comments from a listening audience and so on. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen there. But being entrepreneurial as I am, everything is always a possibility. The show notes, let's get to those. The summary of today's episode, the F1un Economy. I should put a little trademark symbol there. Trademark pending, though, so not yet. The F1un Economy begins and ends lately with Formula One racing. The most important thing in 2023, more so than other small businesses near the race route and even not near, tourism, trees, visibility on pedestrian bridges, and the list goes on. Those were just as important. No, really. As long as the money went to the right places, all was well. Is the second round pointing to how much anything aside from the F1un Economy matters? Why am I even asking that question? Well, let's get into it. The links for today's episode, the first two, shameless self-promotion. I'll keep the mention brief today. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. You don't need to spend any money. There is no obligation. But you can see links to my other audio programs and other projects. There will be more stuff coming there soon. I don't even want to say this out loud, but we're actually getting close to some usable things that we will almost certainly talk about on this episode of this program, this audio program, because I have already spoken about some of the parts. So in Las Vegas is a big one. Obviously, that would be fun to have running for Formula One, the end or the beginning of the world as we know it. So do check those out. They are often used by open source projects as a way to monetize. Again, you're under no obligation to spend any money, but they're two useful platforms that I don't have to manage, and I'm already overwhelmed. I don't need to be building yet more websites and whatnot. And then the coverage of the upcoming Formula One 2024 race, and I didn't even look up the date yet because it's too far in the future. It's I want to say like November 12th. Is it right around Veterans Day again? The unfortunate coincidence, now I have not checked this either, but unfortunately last year there was the coincident Global Entrepreneur Week was held either during Formula One or the week before? I think it was during. Received no news, no coverage, no media, no attention, no nothing. By all accounts, as far as I could, and I did not attend it. I actually was out of town for Formula One. I think I won that race. From what I understand, though, it was a small amount of participation on the ground. The GEW is a global entrepreneurial event. It lasts for 1 week, so there were ways to get attention, but maybe not so much locally. So anyway, whenever the actual race is, we will eat it up. According to ESPN in the UK, they love their race cars out there. The Las Vegas Grand Prix will be easier to sell to us locals for 2024. They're going to do it up right. I think there's a Ferrari event before the actual Formula One race that maybe focus more on locals. I think they were making it easier to get tickets. Some of these things have been mentioned locally. There's been some local promotion on the ground, so I cannot say I'm a Formula One fan myself. So I haven't been tracking the individual things. If you are a fan, you have probably done a better job of that than I have, which is good. But we're going to be fine with it this year. Trust us. I will say, in this case, I'm editorializing a little bit on I'm not copying the headline and pasting it in, so I'm commenting in the way I'm linking. But the links to the articles are there, and you can see them in their entirety. Were lessons learned, and this is from Racer magazine, published on the 4th of September, 2 days ago, 2024. How will Las Vegas apply the lessons learned from last year? That is a great question. The challenge here is that some people speak of Las Vegas as if it were government. You could speak of City of Las Vegas, government. You could speak of County of Clark, in which Las Vegas may be found. Clark County actually ran the event. Why? Because the Grand Prix, the Las Vegas Formula One race, the track is not in Las Vegas. It is in Clark County. It is in an unincorporated Clark County. The strip is not in Las Vegas. nor is I don't believe, I would have to take a closer look. I don't believe the track goes into the city proper. It might on the north side of it. I would have to check that. We'll talk about that later in another episode. But either way, will lessons be learned when they say Las Vegas? Do they mean individuals, the locals? Do they mean people visiting, the tourists? The approximately 40 million people per year. And I want to say from last year, I've already talked about these numbers. I think it was like 900,000 were in allegedly for Formula One. The data for those is always a little bit sketchy. Like they're kind of opaque numbers. So you don't really know the breakdown. Like, I didn't know Formula One was going on. I didn't mean to come here for that. Well, you're still counted. So that would be interesting to know. But were lessons learned? And it could be the state government, the GOED, the Governor's Office of Economic Development. But hopefully it's the county. The county probably had the most impact on the ground and has had the most fingers or shaking fists. And when I say fingers, I mean the middle one pointed at them regarding handling of the event. After the event, as more and more numbers kind of trickled out, it became more obvious that if you were not one of the big players, if you were not maybe the Wynn or Resort World or Resorts World, the bigger players that were able, the bigger, not players, obviously, the bigger resorts that were able to attract the big players, the people that are into the high rolling, they're going to pay for the F1 package and have view of the track on that side of the resort, and front row this and gold star that, multiple gold stars probably. So there's that part of the economic impact. And then there were the smaller resorts. There were the ones further away from the race. I believe Ellis Island is mentioned in the second suit, which we'll get to in a moment. Ellis Island, I think, is one of the ones that said, hey, we actually lost money. And so not everybody was counting their winnings afterwards, as is the case with so many people who visit Vegas. Sometimes you give the gift that we all here enjoy so much. We don't have to pay income taxes. So the lessons learned will be interesting. Did you hear that car? Production by Street? Still even at 10:18 now. So the lessons will be interesting. They really were not obvious. Clearly, winning or losing money as a resort is par for the course in Vegas. I mean, that's the cost of doing business. But there were some businesses, and this is one of the first lawsuits that lost money due to they put up a pedestrian bridge and redirected foot traffic really early, and it really cost them a lot of money over the course of like a month. I think it was something like that. The links, there are links here that we'll get to in a moment. And then again, so Ellis Island and some other smaller businesses, and just general impact in a negative way beyond the headlines. So it will be interesting to see how the Clark County Commission and any committees and other groups that are tied to that driving this whole effort. And then the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, the LVCVA. They're the ones that report the numbers. So that's why I'm always curious, because it's better for them to report good numbers. And if they're the ones that capture and craft the number reporting and then report those numbers, there's a certain conflict of interest in there. I'm not making any accusations, but it is interesting that the numbers are not quite as transparent and granular as they could be. Perhaps the numbers all add up, but who knows? So the lessons would have to be learned by the Clark County, and of course Formula One. Formula One has been involved in all of this as well. So that'll be interesting to see as it unfurls. Something as simple as, and I've commented this in the previous episodes on this topic of F1un Economy, there was no plan to transport or enable the transportation of or allow the transportation of employees of businesses on the Strip that would be blocked by the racetrack and by street closures and detours and so on. Even the ability to park a vehicle if you drove yourself and so on was, I believe it was about 30 days prior to the race when someone said, hey, how are we going to get to work? And It was comical. That actually made the local news, and I think they worked something out at the last minute. It was. Did you guys know there was going to be a race here? So we'll see how that goes. I have two links here about lawsuits. Two businesses filed a suit from 2023, and I think that was just heard a couple days ago. So you can read about that in, of course, lvsportsbiz.com. It was published on September 4, so 2 days ago. Businesses filed a lawsuit suits against Formula One Clark County for Las Vegas Grand Prix mess in 2023, alleging race event cost business millions of dollars, and the county improperly fast-tracked some permits and so on. So there's a finger pointing, probably legitimately so. You cannot be celebrating on one end of this project while everybody at the other end is like, but we got crushed. Like, yeah, you're not Formula One, though. We're much more interested in them. So that'll be interesting to see how that impacts what they do this year. And then there was another lawsuit. This was reported in a local media outlet, 8 News Now. Another lawsuit. And Ellis Island is in this one. So this was just reported today. Today is Friday, September 6th. So we'll see what happens there. And honestly, there should be a class action. Honestly, there really should be a class action. Or two. One could very easily be business owners, and the other could be just people who live here. Depends on, because the impact, now, for example, a little water there. The impact on tourist-oriented businesses is one thing, right? You gotta roll with that. When CES is in town in January, a lot of people will be at the convention center. They'll be at businesses near the convention center. The hotels and resorts jack up their room rates to astronomical levels because they know they're going to be all booked. So, you're kind of on your own for these big, giant marquee events. But when you crush smaller businesses that normally just want to do business, but when you're blocking traffic, rerouting traffic, making it difficult, when you're making it unattractive to come to Vegas. Now, I don't know anyone in my many years who has said, oh, I'm not going to Vegas during CES. They may say, oh, room rates are too high. I can't go to Vegas during CES. But no, because if you're planning ahead and you're like, oh, I got a room booked already, there might be something. Or people just don't want to go that time of year. Maybe they'd rather go for New Year's. But, people will come to Vegas for New Year's, and the room rates are high. They'll come here for July 4th, of course. Room rates are going to be high. So demand-driven hotel room and resort pricing, nothing new. So if you are in a business that is impacted by foot traffic, visitor flow, etc., Formula One kind of screwed some people over. I recall from some people with businesses downtown in the old downtown Vegas area, which is in the city of Las Vegas, by the way, or people who were maybe in the Arts District, which is technically also downtown, Arts District, some other parts of the greater Vegas area. Kind of the air was drawn out of the room by the event for one of two reasons. Either people were at the race, or people were very explicitly not going out. So they said, I'm just staying off the roads. Case in point, myself got out of town. So if you were in Vegas but didn't feel like dealing with it, probably you already lived here, so you don't want to come to Vegas and then go, man, I'm just going to stay in the room. They got a big TV. I want to watch TV. So, but if you live here, as I do, and if I had stayed here, I almost certainly would not have ventured out anywhere because it's just a pain. It's a pain to get around. No fun. So that impacts business. It makes it less attractive for other parts of the greater Vegas area for small businesses. And that's going to come up in some of these lawsuits, and it will come up in commentary. Hopefully, if the local media talks to people, it will come up in, person on the street interviews kind of thing. The schedule for construction has been out. It's actually been out for over a month, I think 2 months. So the schedule for dismantling and other transportation management planning was released. I think it was 2 months ago. That's another Channel 8 News Now article, 8newsnow.com. I usually go to channel 8 just because I get a consistent sort of leaning. Although, there are at least 3 channels with websites, 3 traditional media outlets that publish their content on websites, so it's easy to link to. I don't even own a TV, to be honest. But some of the stuff you can find streaming or read the associated website. So the plans for construction and whatnot being available sooner might help some. That remains to be seen. This goes back into the Were Lessons Learned column. I will tell you, so that one's sort of put a pin in that for the next couple of months and see if by November, like literally for the next couple of months, by November race time, has there been total mayhem? Have businesses suffered again due to traffic impingement and whatnot? There are 3 more links, promise. I encountered this about a month ago, and it's sort of gossip at this point. I don't know if it's advanced. I didn't do any additional follow-up, but the BattleBots Destructathon studio, I have visited that studio. It's pretty cool. It's by the Horseshoe. If you're familiar with the area, it's literally just off the strip. Like you walk a half a block and you can smell the burning steel from the cutting. The BattleBots Destructathon studio will be closing down, and based on an internal memo, the reasons given, and this was going to shut down probably because of last year and a general trend, but they accelerated the exit because of the Formula One race schedule. So they were basically expressing that BattleBots and the venue do not fit into what I will call the fun economy. I don't call it that, but it is trademarked, so we'll use that term. Not trademarked by me, and it's not even trademarked yet, pending. So they were not finding success in the fun economy, and so I have to be honest. I think BattleBots is a victim of the same thing that Hollywood 2.0 and we're going to be the next Silicon Valley and all those. So it's a cool thing. It's in Vegas, but it's not high visibility because it is not attached directly to the fun economy, or it wasn't. The way to attach it to the fun economy, of course, is to tell people when they're here, hey, by the way, do you like robot demolition derbies? Just go 2 blocks that way and you can go get some tickets and go see a show. So, obviously I have no idea how their business was running in general, but as far as notifying people that are here, like, hey, you just came to Vegas. And I have talked to people over the years who come to Vegas and they're like, it's always the same. They're usually here for trade shows, so they don't necessarily want to be here. And they say, it's the same food, it's the same crowds, it's the same trying to get a taxi or an Uber, the walking, if you can't get those, the shuttle bus mess, the resorts, the overpriced, they just lament the whole time. Oh, sorry, I had a break for a moment there. My air conditioner came on. How dare it? And it adds a bunch of noise. So I had to shut it off, and then it took a moment to shut off. So here we are. Anyway, so people come here, they experience the same things. Part of and it's not like they don't do this, but part of the problem, I think, is that people don't come here expecting to engage with the not strip. Some people do. This is not a universal thing. But I've, in my travels, I have encountered, when I would leave the greater Vegas area, which is allowed, by the way, I would tell people in other countries when I was working for Intel and traveling quite a bit, or just in general, if you say, I live in Vegas, there is a lot of default assumptions made, and they're usually incorrect. So my answers were, no, I go to work and I go to the grocery store. I live near an elementary school, try to get some exercise, live life like a normal person. So you can imagine that the question was basically, so do you just go on the strip all the time? And so the notion of life in Vegas is based on TV, or the notion that isn't everyone here a tourist? witness when someone kind of, hey, I'm going to be in Vegas next week. Like, okay, me too. Oh, I'm just letting you know. So do you want me to block out the whole week and just, hang out and have my phone ready? So yeah, there's an assumption that because people visit here for vacation, they're all in and they're here for it. So people who live here will tend to know about the BattleBots Destructathon Studio, or they'll know about hiking trails, or they'll know about, off-strip malls and shopping and restaurants and different attractions, things to do. There are even Instagram channels or channels, reels, whatever. Like, here's stuff that people who live here won't tell you because they don't want you to go. It's for locals only. I don't know that there is a good enough effort in a useful way extended to people who are here for trade shows to enable them to discover things while they're here that are not on the beaten path. So maybe BattleBots is one of those. The F1un Economy does include conventions, so that's what it is. So it's unfortunate. The Neon Festival, so the downtown, I'm going to guess that the Downtown Alliance is somehow involved in this, and there are non-Fremont Street Experience participants. So the Neon Festival is going to provide something to do for the F1 crowd, try to bring people to downtown. Remember, I mentioned moments ago that businesses in the downtown Vegas area, old downtown, so Fremont Street, Fremont East, Arts District, these businesses suffered a little bit because locals just said, I'm going to stay home. I don't want to go out and deal with the traffic and so on. So providing another reason or two to come out and come downtown and hang out, like, hey, locals, come on, don't forget about us. We won't forget about you. So we'll see how that goes. It might even be counter-programming, which I'll get to in a moment. And finally, the F1un Economy, trademark pending, still pending. It's been I think it was filed August 22nd, 2 years ago. I'm not looking at the document at this moment, but it's, I think it was filed in August. It was definitely filed in August 2022. So it is still pending. And apparently, if I'm reading and you have the full link there, so you can see exactly what I'm seeing, or what I have seen. It is in a pending, but we have questions state. So we'll see how that goes. But F1un Economy trademarked by the UNLV, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas Office of Economic Development. So they're not trademarking the next Silicon Valley or Hollywood 2.0, as far as I know. F1un Economy. And again, I've mentioned this many times, the F1un Economy, gaming, professional sports, conventions, entertainment, like residences and so on. You can fill in the rest of those blanks. And tourism, coming here for hiking, seeing the sights, seeing the oldest saloon in the world, which is not far. It's not the oldest saloon, but there are some classic old West style. You can come and go see Hoover Dam. You can go see parts of the Grand Canyon. You can see the whole Grand Canyon if you want, but it's a quick drive to the dam, and then a slightly less quick drive to Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon is not in Nevada, but the water part does pass through here. But those are nearby, so you can come to Vegas and see some other things. The various pieces of desert, state line. You drive up to Tonopah, head up to Tahoe, etc. So tourism in general, not a trivial component, but it's a little bit squishier than gaming. If you've come here to gamble, if you're here for the entertainment, your friend is getting married, so go crazy in Vegas. Entire movies have been made about that. So that's where things are. I personally think they're leaning, despite their gestures, their action, the verbal and written, hey, we're going to be the next. Actions, F1un Economy. So was 2023 a learning experience? I did a few episodes, of course, before, during, and after. Ish. Like I didn't do a deep dive before, during, and after, but I was talking about some things and gathering some local and non-local coverage of the event and some grumbling for Formula One 2023 here in Vegas. And as I said, I was out of town, so that's even better. It was a mixed bag. Headlines were mostly positive. The headlines were mostly positive. Closer to the event, right before, right after, you saw a few things about people being upset that the Bellagio cut the trees down. Oh, but it's because the roots were not healthy enough. We couldn't relocate the trees, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that upset some people. The Venetian completely broke their canals temporarily, but what? Why did I come here? You guys are breaking my destination. Tourism includes wandering around on the strip and looking at things, and you've just factored that out. So that was upsetting, and that did make some news, especially locally. But everything was mostly positive. Even when they blocked spectating, they put up this film to make the I don't know if it's glass or plexi. I think it's plexi. So you couldn't sit on a walkway and look at the strip and look at, don't want to see the race. So that upset some people. So there were little incidents like this, but in general, they're very exciting, a lot of celebrities, all that. So that's usually how things get covered here. So mostly hyping the event and the bright sides, the upsides, with a few mishaps, and again, some stinkers mixed in. But again, those get less attention in the moment. Only after did it become apparent that some of the construction, planning, even cash flow, did not really help everybody. Some small businesses were actually hurt financially, of course, and we learned over time that even some of the medium businesses out there like Ellis Island or some other closer to the strip, they should have benefited from all the traffic. I don't know how CVS came out of this. CVS is very near. There's one at Treasure Island, and there's another one just south across the street. Anyway, so did these businesses suffer because of a lack of foot traffic? And certainly that was the case in some areas, Flamingo and so on. You can read about those in some lawsuits and other reality checks. So some of the smaller resorts and businesses near the race circuit, as I've just described, took this hit financially and didn't really make a noise about it at the time. It was later. So some of them were sooner, but still later. Others were later. One of the links for this episode, so I just went through them, points to a lawsuit filed around the permitting process. That's the first link I mentioned. And then there were two small businesses in that one. And I think it could grow into a class action in general about some of the mishandling of, you could argue, environmental impact, right? How is this going to affect traffic flow, impact on business? Did they have to shut off water or anything during construction for longer than planned, et cetera, et cetera? There's a whole bunch of things that kind of got hand-waved. And I don't operate a business in these areas, so I'm just going by second, third hand, sort of minimal reporting, human interest reports, 2 minutes, a YouTube video, some reporter saying, so how did Formula One not give you all the love? So yeah, we'll see. I think a class action could or should arise, but I'm not an attorney. There's that other article that came right after, above. Scroll back if you need to, about another lawsuit that was just filed, and there could be more. Who knows? We'll see how this year goes too. So yeah, it's we're gonna have to see what they've learned from last year. I do know, though, that for all the construction that goes on here in Vegas all the time, and all the road diversions and detours, and I'm frankly somewhat surprised that they weren't more prepared for the impact on local business and so on. So here we are for 2024. Lessons could be learned again, given that there is always road construction and other similar traffic-related activities in the greater Vegas area all the time. That part will not faze anyone in general. So like I just said, it's almost like I said it ad hoc and then I read my notes. But it's almost like people have come to expect delays, the odd, hey, I'm visiting Vegas and I didn't know that you had to slow down before, an RV flipped over on the freeway, or a semi hit hit a Volkswagen and turned over. There's always something going on our arterial freeways. Service streets are often under construction and detoured or blocked for events and so on. So it's just generally something of a challenge to move around here. So when you're building a racetrack and taking out chunks of commutable roadway for extended periods of time, it's not the end of the world here, but it just makes it a little bit worse. The scope and grandeur of this undertaking, the traffic rerouting and improving streets and so on, happening so big and so quickly is what really shakes things up, though. So it was just a lot in a short period of time. Are people planning for detours and employee parking and transportation to workplaces on and near the strip? Are they doing it more than a month before this time? Hopefully. I'll have to flip through that transportation management plan again. One of the challenges appears to be any sort of progress management, awareness of the hyper-local situation that particular businesses or even more generally local areas may encounter. That is, hey, this thing you built down the road is leading to no one walking to this part of the road. Foot traffic can cause major problems if you divert the foot traffic. Like, oh, you can't walk this way. You got to go around. You've just left out a whole bunch of businesses that may count on foot traffic. Foot traffic is a real thing. So they could be corrected. They should be addressed, certainly in some way. So if we don't know about it until after, like, who are you going to tell? How are you going to get the word out? Are the Chamber of Commerce is very fond of the sporting events, by the way. Are the Clark County commissioners, any other committees that are working on this stuff, the LVCVA, are they responsive? Do they need to be more responsive? Do they need to be proactive? Personally, I would say they need to be proactive. Like, I'm trying to conduct my business here. I've already been hit by this reduction in foot traffic. I don't have time to go tracking down the right number. So there should be somebody that's reaching out to small business, anyone impacted. Here's a contact number. And they've done a little bit better about just getting the word out that, hey, don't forget, another race coming up. But if we have to rely on a human interest story months after the fact, most of the local public, that's us, the locals that live here, will have moved on to the next problem. Where's our stadium? Actually, the Tropicana will be demolished in October. So it'll already be down by the time Formula One races commence. That's just going to be a whole bunch of stuff going on this trip. As usual, par for the course. It does appear that some additional programming before and during the actual race has been added to this year. So I already mentioned the Neon Festival, was it? And there's a Ferrari event before the race. So some other car-related thing that's not Formula One racing, but I didn't provide a link for that. There's going to be more stuff. So as the big event approaches, we'll see what's really going on. But so to promote some activities and attractions, perhaps counter program for people who are not into the race. Mostly, those would probably be people who live here. So locals will probably head down to the Neon Festival. Some tourists will. Some tourists who are already here. Maybe somebody came here for the race, but their family or whoever they're with is like, I'm not really into the race. I'll go check out downtown. They'll probably have a better time, just as long as they don't try to cross a street. That's when things get dicey. The counter program will be interesting. So will that impact people who came for the race but decided to do something else? We'll see. But parallel programming, kind of almost a form of inbound marketing. I've been saying this for years. You have people visiting here. They should be drawn in to what is happening in Vegas. They should be made aware of. They should be given access to. There should be some sort of proaction. And this actually used to happen down in the downtown project days. They were focused more on CES, but they had a whole attempt with a specifically chartered bus and a passport style book and a little tour of the downtown area and some events, some it's the opposite of counter programming. It's to coincide with the nature of visitors for CES. So it was based on startups, which was downtown project anyway, focusing on startups and pitches. So like a startup night and the general creation of a startup community in the downtown area and so on. So it can be done. It just has to be done because it just doesn't happen like magic. So what should we be watching for? As I've said many, many times, if the Greater Vegas area fancies itself as an innovation hub, and I will interrupt myself by reminding anyone listening, or if this is your first time, innovation destination. Come to the Greater Vegas area. We have a lot of hotel rooms, more than 150,000 the last time I checked. The Tropicana being torn down may reduce that number very slightly. We have a lot of hotel rooms, resort rooms. We got plenty of space. Instead of having all of your employees at your remote, distributed, virtual company move to one city, first of all, it should not be Las Vegas. Second of all, have them all converge on Vegas. When I used to work for Intel, there used to be the Intel Sales and Marketing Conference, ISMC. They would stay at the Venetian and the Palazzo, executives in the Palazzo, of course. And they would have basically a private trade show for the sales and marketing folks. Here's our new products. Here's our strategy. Here's our marketing materials. Here's the pitch. Here are the numbers, etc. So they'd go through a whole week, hands-on demos and so on. And then they would send them back to wherever they were actually working. You can do that too. So, but Greater Vegas wants to be an innovation hub, and we must wonder if things will be done differently for this, if ever, creatively, perhaps in some innovative way around the Formula One for 2024 as compared to last year, or just in general. This might include the basics, like telling the people in for the race about this innovation wonderland that is the Greater Vegas area. They do it at the Mobile World Congress, which is also not held in Las Vegas. It was held in the West Convention Center, which is in Clark County. The Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign, also not in Las Vegas. There is a desire to turn Clark County, to rename it to Las Vegas County. We'll see. If there are issues along the way, so again, we should be promoting other things when people are here for the race. And that's always true. We should be pointing people towards local innovation, towards local creativity, restaurants, bars that are not necessarily on the strip, to give other businesses an opportunity to take advantage of the 40 million visitors who come here every year. My opinion. Thinking entrepreneurial and innovatively. One of the challenges appears to be any sort of progress management. Awareness of the hyperlocal situation. I'm sorry, that's still a problem. I already mentioned that. I've been doing this more lately. I have too many notes. It's like Amadeus. If there are issues on the way, will we hear about it? Hyperlocal management. As was the case last year. That's why I got confused. There is a strong likelihood that vertical media, especially anything focused on the high-profile sports and specifically racing, so ESPN and Racer Magazine, for examples, will cover the race and the pre- and post-game interestingness. They did it last year. They do it for football. They do it for the Golden Knights. They do it for the Raiders. So, if people are interested in that, they don't have to be in Vegas. They can be anywhere. They're fans of the sport. That's where you get a lot of coverage about stuff on the ground, because those are not covering crime and politics, same thing, or the drama of copper theft, which I'm not minimizing. So the vertical media seems to do a better job of covering some of the details. Will this be true of our local media? Will they step up and do a little bit more coverage about the business, the impact on business, and again, the hyper-local management, like what's going on the ground, like what's really happening? What are the pros and the cons? Is it all hype? Is all the hype to be believed? We can commence holding our breath now. Very specifically, if there are negatives, if there are issues, if there are problems, will these make the news? That's exactly the thing. If we don't talk about it, and I always go to this one, I know a person who was not on a beat for police, but sort of the special unit type work. And he tells me one day, I hurt my knee. It was either the night before or 2 nights before. I said, what happened? He goes, I had to crouch down behind a what do you call it? A mailbox. I don't know where there was a mailbox, but it was either a mailbox or a dumpster or something. He said, I had to crouch down there because people were shooting at us. I'm like, really? Yeah, it's one of those things. I said, I didn't hear about it in the news. He goes, oh no, you wouldn't hear about something like this. They try to keep that quiet. So that's a little conspiracy theory, but they don't always do a great job of covering as primary source material any bad news. Now there's plenty of bad news, but it's usually individual bad news. Whenever it gets to be political or structural, there's probably a little bit of, I'm just totally speculating here, but I would like to see, there's always complaining about the school board, CCSD, the you don't live here. That's the latest one I saw. One of the people on the school board is not a resident of Nevada. That's apparently a problem. So I think they marked the seat as vacant, like you're no longer on this board. So there's drama like that. But if you want to start talking about how, gaming is bad or Formula One is causing strife, those don't get the coverage. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What else is not fit? Oh, by the way, well, let me just say very specifically, if there are negatives, if there are issues, like I said, the question is whether we will hear about them, but also will we learn about what will get focus and improvement? Like that's basically begs the question: are people learning from these experiences, or is it just that's the way it is? So why is this important? There's a well-known drive here in southern Nevada toward economic diversity in this whole region. So Vegas and beyond, Clark County. Maybe there's not much else beyond as far as population and so on, but so southern Nevada, specifically Clark County, and of course anything that depends specifically on tourism, looking for some economic diversity. There continues to be a significant focus, though, on that fun economy. So visitors are still important and trademarks still pending, sometimes arguably to the detriment of other businesses in the area. Witness BattleBots, which may not be your cup of tea, but BattleBots moving on thanks to a mismatch with the fun economy is noteworthy. You cannot tell people to move, and this is a part of a downtown marketing campaign, move your business here, become a local. You can't tell people that. And then I'm going to make a little sound effect here. Good luck. Because we're not going to support you unless you're doing something in the fun economy. What else is not a fit with this fun economy? Are you considering relocating yourself, your startup, maybe your ongoing business concern, or to the greater Vegas area? Do you have a celebrity or two on your board, maybe some very deep pockets, or do you have a global brand that could be stood up as a trophy? Like, oh, look, this big company that you all know has moved to Vegas. Because if you're nobody and you're not a celebrity, good luck. Will you be able to put a dent in the fun economy? Can you ride the wave, or will you get knocked over by it? Good question. Personally, this is my entrepreneurial adventure as it is. And by the way, we are coming to the end. So hang on. Personally, I'm pivoting into this wave. I've had a variety of different ideas, but the take home, which I first kind of came up with, I don't know, that's a strong word, but I noticed the Downtown Project was trying to push this, an entrepreneurial community, a geographically proximal collection of, startup, idea-focused individuals of varying levels of experience and resources and so on. So it's a little bit of chaos, but sometimes that's good for entrepreneurialism and innovation. And I went to, unfortunately, the LVGEA, the Global Economic Alliance. Thornton, no, what's his name? I'll remember his name one of these days. I had a nice conversation with him. I said, hey, how come you're not connecting? There's got to be some way of connecting the startup community. I should wash my mouth out with soap or something. The startup scene, the entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem of the greater Vegas area with all of this flow of tourism that comes through here. And it wasn't 40 million back then. It was probably 35. I should look that up someday. Doesn't matter. So we're talking 8-9 years ago. I had lived here for a little while. So I've lived here 11 years and 1 month. So yeah, we should connect that. And he said, yeah, that's a great idea. That is a very, very cool idea. And then nothing happened for 8 years. He moved on. He does Special Olympics. I think he's like executive director now of Nevada Special Olympics. So good for him. Yeah. So whatever I was working on before, whatever you want to work on, if you are moving to Vegas or you intend to be based in Vegas, case in point, Nevada leaned in very, very aggressively into the what do they call it? UAVs, but they became UASs or something? Unmanned autonomous systems, I think it is. Unpersoned. That's a whole nother thing, that the evolution, the etymology of the word man, woman, human, person, all that. Very interesting. Anyway, so Nevada was one of 6 test sites for the FAA to conduct drone trials and so on. So automated vehicles, self-driving, partially self-driving, have been legal to operate on the streets of Nevada for some time. And you have this huge influx of tourists. You have traffic, high traffic streets like the Strip. So an automated vehicle doesn't have to travel very fast. The cars are moving slowly. If you can dodge pedestrians, you're better off. You can't operate them in the loop, though. That's apparently never going to work. So you're basically leaning into the fun economy because people are here and they get to try out this new thingy. So to me, if you are trying to build something that does not take advantage of the fun economy, then you may be taken advantage of. You may not get the benefit of being here. Like, but you guys told me to become a local. I moved my company here. And they're like, yeah, but Marky Mark is not on your board, nor are Andreessen, Horowitz, anybody of note. You're not having a Las Vegas tech summit in your house. You're not a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. So you're not drilling tunnels under, you got to be somebody. Otherwise, good luck. Right? So everything I'm doing now leans into the visitors, as I can say glibly, as I want to do. We have 2.3-ish million people living in Clark County, so basically the southern Nevada area. It might be more now. That's census data, so it might be allegedly people are moving in from surrounding states. I don't know if I always believe that, but let's call it 2.3 million just to say it's 2.3 million. But we have approximately 40 million people visiting here from parts unknown. They have data on that too, but 40 million people who you have an opportunity, if you're here, to engage with people from far and wide. They're coming to you. So anything you can do to take advantage of people coming over to visit, why not? Why would you not do that? So leaning into an opportunity to engage with people from vast differences makes a lot more sense than moving to Vegas for some sort of tax break when there's no innovation culture to speak of. That'll take a while. There aren't anywhere near the resources that you would find even in Austin, but certainly in Silicon Valley if you're doing something tech-centric. If you're going to do something foodie, but you're not taking maximal advantage of the tourism, then you could probably do the same thing in San Francisco or Austin or any other place where there's a lot of flow of people, but also food culture. If you're going to do something in barbecue, obviously, you could do it in Austin or Texas. So anyway, the list goes on. There are reasons to consider doing anything here, especially entrepreneurial. And if you can take advantage of, I don't mean in a bad way, I just mean people are coming here. So if you can make a case for, hey, while you're here, check out my thing that I'm building or making or developing or improving. Despite big plans for Hollywood 2.0, which depends entirely on tax credits, the next Silicon Valley, which depends entirely on a culture of innovation that we don't have yet, or relocating people. And here's the thing, I'm just going to let you know a little secret here. Hey, I work for a company and they're moving us all to Vegas. If that doesn't work, I can't work anywhere else in Vegas. So we're going to have to become like poker dealers, and the kids are going to have to go to schools that are known to be not great. Maybe I should just find a job. Oh, I have 400 job offers. No, I don't think the economy is that strong right now, but it is something to think about. Like, do people want to relocate to a place like Vegas, which is not necessarily completely conducive to the tech or not yet Hollywood movie media production? I think media production already takes place in various places on location and so on. So that may not be a huge lift. But either way, the people in charge of the greater Vegas area, whether at the state, county, or local levels, are not going to be helpful in useful ways with much else other than the fun economy. So Hollywood 2.0, no tax credit, don't worry about it. Next Silicon Valley, where am I going to go to hire people? Hire them from Silicon Valley and have them move here. Those are things that have actually been said. So it makes sense to focus on the 40 million visitors, and do something with that. If you're making an end user product or service, or if you can somehow expose people to what you're building so they can try it out, give you some feedback, go home thinking, I think I would buy that thing, etc. So interesting times. And so I personally watch the way that they handle something like the Formula One race, everything that goes into preparing for it. So obviously more so last year because it was new, but this year, before, during, and after, who gets negatively impacted locally, production by street, what preparations and offsets for those impacts were planned for, which ones are addressed in real time, right? Some hyper local management. This is going south now on this corner because of that additional footbridge or whatever. Oh, we got to deal with that. Okay. It's not something you can say, oh, we'll deal with it during the next session if you're still in business. So it'll be interesting to watch how this goes. But I think it's let me get some water before we end the show here. It's an unfortunate harbinger of the way non-fun economy. So they're already showing that fun economy takes precedence. So if you're not doing something in the fun economy, will you get the short end of a stick? So if you're trying to build a technology startup, if you're trying to build a movie studio, these are not necessarily fun economy components. So they may be like, oh, you're not bringing in more tourism dollars, or you're not bringing in you're not doing what we wanted to because we really are, our minds are focused on the fun economy. So we don't understand the tech economy. We don't understand entertainment, things like this, entertainment production. So it'll be interesting to see. And that's why I'm so intrigued by the Formula One debacle from last year. Some good news, a lot of bad news. We'll see. And then what they're doing this year and whether they can learn and what kind of trajectory that puts everything on into the future. And I will end on the note that says, because I mentioned culture of innovation, just based on me being around for a while and watching and listening, I personally think a 10-year program that enables and encourages some general cultivation of an innovation culture that begins in school around junior high, age 12 or so, and enables people at that age to begin exploring the things that they're really interested in and trying out some ideas like, oh, you're thinking about becoming a doctor, you're into biology, are you into research or clinical? Oh, you're into rockets and space? Oh, don't even bother with the spaceport, but there are actually NASA presences around here. What can you do with the university? What can you do with the tech park when it's done sometime? Are you into making things? Are you inventive? Are you an innovator? Are you into food innovation? We can certainly do that here. The list goes on and on. So there really needs to be a shift away from an employment educational tract. Nothing wrong with being an employee. But when that's really the only thing you're focusing on and you're not even doing a good job of that, you cannot claim to be the next Silicon Valley. You just can't. So we'll see how things go. I will be watching this year to see what they've learned. I will not hold my breath, if you don't mind. You can. I will not. Don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You do not have to buy anything. You don't have to buy me a coffee or anything else. But that is where I have links to all of my programming and projects and so on. Audio programs for now. We'll see what happens. And Ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. Same sort of deal. You don't have to spend any money. Thank you as always for listening on this later than normal publication. This episode 80 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. Hey, if you ever want to be a guest on here, if you are an entrepreneurial, innovative, interesting person, think about it. media@cafegenius.org or D Hugo if you want. All right. Take it easy.